Good morning. Welcome to Hot Seat. I'm Scott Mitchell. This gentleman needs no introduction. Our senior senator, James Lankford. Senator, good to see you.
You bet, Scott. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I just watched some folks right in front of the building here right in front of News 9 talking to you from out of town. Yeah. And we're really blessed to have so many attractions, people coming into this town. But I'm wondering, what are people approaching you and saying they're concerned about right now?
Right now, there's a mix. There's folks saying they're really excited. There are things happening. I would tell you, so many folks say, hey, things are moving really fast, but at least we're moving. But then they'll say the next question, that is, okay, what is going to happen with tariffs? What's going to happen with trade issues? What's going to happen with DOGE? Are they really closing down what I think they're closing down? So that's been interesting just in the dialogue. If I go back to some classic Elvis music, I can make you hum along on it. It is a little less talk, a little more action. And a lot of people are saying, DC's been talking too much, not enough action. Now there's a lot of action. They're like, hey, let's talk more. And so it's just been very interesting just to be able to track that with people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask the follow-up then. The stuff they're asking you all these things, but what is keeping them up at night, in your opinion?
Oh, I think it just worries about the economy still. They're trying to figure out where things are going to go. They don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs. They've heard a lot about it. There's a lot of uncertainty on tariff issues, and so they wonder, is this going to raise prices again? The president wants to negotiate. He is a negotiator. He loves making real estate deals. He loves making deals, period. He wants to make deals to close down everything in Ukraine and make sure that war actually ends. He wants to be able to end the war in Gaza. He wants to be able to end the war over tariffs, quite frankly, because a lot of countries do very high tariffs on us. They protect their own industry, and it's hard for us to be able to get in. So he has just said, I'm going to do high tariffs on you and see what you think about that. And it's a fight to be able to try to get tariffs down. But the president also thinks people need to move manufacturing here rather than us buying products overseas. If you sell most of it here, why aren't you actually making it here? And so the way that he can do that is to be able to literally force more people to be able to come here to be able to make it. And that's with the tariff piece, and that takes some time.
Let me ask one question on Ukraine and talk about Putin. Someone called him a ruthless KGB thug. I wonder who.
That would be me.
That would be, yeah. All right. There have been people that are really concerned about America, maybe or the administration taking sides on this one. It looks like that he's been dragging his feet, Putin that is, right, and may not be playing along to what the administration as well as Europe wants him to do. Your thoughts about where we're at right now?
Yeah, right now they're trying to get both sides to come to the table equally. President Trump has even said in the past couple of days, Putin is dragging his feet like I used to do in real estate negotiations to try to get better leverage. No question, Putin is trying to slow walk it to the table. He wants to take as much land as he possibly can. He wants to control as much as he possibly can to give himself better leverage for the final negotiation to be able to resolve where they're going to go. He still has one port he wants to take in the Black Sea. That's the port of Odessa. If he takes that last port, then literally Ukraine will have no ports left at all. And that was been Putin's goal from the very beginning, to choke off all trade coming out of Ukraine so he controls it. So there are leverage points he's still trying to achieve, and he's slow walking trying to get that. The best thing that we can do is ratchet down the pressure on Russia, as the president did on Ukraine, to try to get Ukraine to get to the table on it, ratchet up the pressure on Russia and to say, we're not going to put up with this. Let's settle this right now if it's going to be settled at all, and have less loss of life.
One of the committees that you're involved in, Senate Intel, I read things about Europeans wondering about if we're still a reliable partner, and some discussions about NATO raising a lot more money for the defense. Your thoughts about where we're headed maybe in the next 3 years?
NATO is the greatest military alliance in the history of the world, by far. It has protected Europe for decades now, when Europe was in chaos for decades and, quite frankly, centuries before that, in fighting each other. It's been very, very effective to be able to reduce fighting. This war in Ukraine and with Russia has been the first one we've had in decades on this. It's not involved a NATO country, obviously, so NATO countries still have not been attacked from outside. It's a beneficial alliance. Saying that, I can go through a long list of countries that are not fulfilling their defense requirements on this. The president is right to say, hey, don't just wait on America to come defend you. You train your people on how to defend your own territory. You do the investment. We're doing our investment. You do yours, to be able to make sure that they're actually a good partner in NATO, not just a partner in NATO. And many of them have not been. Some of them have. Many of them have not been.
One final foreign policy question. The president took NATO membership for Ukraine off the table. Should that be a part of the negotiation? Should that be on the table?
Literally in the NATO charter, we do not talk about NATO membership while a country is at war. So that is literally prohibited to be able to actually talk about Ukraine joining in with NATO while they're still at war. After that time period, we do need to have a conversation and see what that actually looks like. Obviously, Ukraine's been a great partner with the United States for a long time. There's a lot of commerce that comes out of there that directly affects what happens in the United States. We've done a lot of trade with them. President's talked a lot about rare earth minerals in Ukraine. They've been a good ally for us, quite frankly. Someday that may be an issue on it, but right now to talk about it is the wrong time to talk about it.
Turning to domestic politics, there's something going through the Congress right now. I think it's called the Big Beautiful Bill.
The big, beautiful bill.
The House got it through. Didn't know they were going to be able to do that, but now it's there being negotiated, reconciliation. People are wondering about investments, because of tariffs. They're looking at, do I invest here, there, taking their money out of the market, putting it in cash.
Yeah.
Help us understand how important it is to get this done and what it means to people, small mom and pop investors with their 401k, or they have some holdings in the stock market. They're all concerned. What can you tell us looking in the next 90 days?
So this will be one of the single most important bills that we actually get done this year. So the House, what they passed is their budget reconciliation bill. It's the beginning of the process. The Senate's going to do another one that'll line up closer to where the House is, but it'll be a little different still on it. The key aspects in it is we can't see a tax increase. My Democrat colleagues are saying we need to do away with the 2017 tax bill. Well, all of your viewers need to know every single tax bracket went down in 2017. If we allow this to expire, as my Democrat colleagues want it to be able to expire, every single tax bracket goes up. Every single small business in Oklahoma, their taxes will increase next year. With the fight on inflation, with all the uncertainty in the economy, this is the wrong time to be able to increase taxes on every single Oklahoman. So the first thing we're trying to do is to make sure taxes don't go up. That's the first piece on it. The second piece of it is we wanted to have a long-term proposal on this. We need to be able to make sure those rates are locked in, that actually Congress makes the changes, not the calendar. Right now, there are changes based on just the calendar. It's been 6 years, and so the change is coming on it. We want to be able to lock those rates in to say it literally takes an act of Congress to be able to change those rates again. It provides more stability, better planning. That's important for things like bonus depreciation. People will refer to this. That's for a business. If you have a big purchase, a commercial pickup truck for your business or a heavy piece of equipment, you'll have to depreciate that over several years, or you could depreciate that year in the year you buy it. Now, that may not seem like a big deal. It doesn't affect how much taxes you pay. The taxes you pay is the same, but it's an enormous thing for a company to say they can actually write that purchase off in the year they purchase it because it helps their company be able to grow more and to be able to invest more. Every single business wants that. That's one of the aspects that's in this bill. We've got a section on nonprofits in this bill. Most Oklahomans can't write off their tax-deductible donations because they don't itemize. Only 9% of Oklahomans actually itemize their taxes. Well, the other 91% may donate to a nonprofit, but they don't get to write it off on that. Well, that's a problem. I want to be able to make sure they can do that. That needs to be fixed in the next bill.
As part of the reconciliation process, we're seeing discussions about entitlements. Some people go, well, Medicare's not an entitlement. Social Security's not an entitlement. I've been paying into these. But people are concerned a lot about Medicaid, for example,
Sure.
and states having their match. What can you tell us about what's on the table, what is behind the scenes that you can talk about in terms of easing anxiety over those three issues?
Yeah, let me talk a couple things. There's no conversation on Social Security at all. That's off the table. In fact, in the reconciliation law, it prohibits anything on Social Security being done. So all the rumors out there on Social Security, they're completely false. Second part for Medicare and then for Medicaid, no one's talking about reducing benefits. No one is. But the Congressional Budget Office and GAO, which is the Government Accountability Office, they're the outside auditor on everything, they've identified about $50 billion of what they call improper payments. $50 billion. That's a lot of money that we need to be able to identify. Where's that money going, and why don't we have tracking on that? We also had situations like the Wall Street Journal reported on this week, where if you lived in Oklahoma for a while and then you moved to Texas and you had Medicaid here and then you also got Medicaid in Texas, right now when your number is turned in, the insurance companies actually paid for both out of Texas and Oklahoma on that. Well, that's billions of dollars as well that's going out the door and has been going on for years. We've got to deal with those areas of improper payments and fraud and waste on that. The second thing we've got to deal with is what are we going to do on work requirements? There's work requirements on some of the other things like TANF. That's a welfare assistance that actually happened during the Bill Clinton administration. They changed and put work requirements on TANF benefits on that. That's not true for Medicaid. So for healthy, working age adults with no dependents, I think there should be a work requirement there. And once you're working, many of those individuals work for a while, then they start getting insurance through their employer. That reduces the burden to the American taxpayer on that. That is also worth billions and billions of dollars to the taxpayer. There are things that can be done to lower the cost to the taxpayer on Medicaid without getting to the benefit portion.
Well, we're talking about the bottom line for folks. Core inflation, the latest numbers, like it's up.
It is.
There's something that's uneasy about this aspect. The president, a lot of people make promises in campaigns and they can't fulfill them, but this discussion about trying to make prices go down, that seems to be a very sticky sort of issue. How can you help us understand what you see in terms of inflation issues over the next year or two?
Yeah, there's several things. One is prices typically don't go down. Every American knows that.
Just the rate of increase.
It's right. The increase is slower on it. Now, there's some areas like gasoline. We've seen that go up and down based on the price of a barrel of oil. That price goes up and down based on that. So what you can do is if you can actually make it easier to be able to go get oil, then that actually makes it a little cheaper to be able to do that, and it puts us on a more competitive footprint worldwide, brings prices down. That's helpful to everybody because the price of gasoline and diesel is built into every single product. So that allows a little more margin for prices to be able to go down if you do that. Eggs right now, that's the biggest issue that everybody talks about. Is we have an avian flu outbreak right now that we literally have millions and millions of chickens being put down because one bird in the flock gets avian flu and it's terminal to all of them, so they wipe them out. That is dramatically increasing the price of eggs right now. If we can't get on top of this global epidemic of avian flu, this doesn't get better. So there's a lot of research. I actually met with HHS this week. I had a conversation with RFK Jr. I've met with Brooks Rollins from USDA about what they're doing to be able to try to get on top of this in the United States. And there's a lot of good research that's happening right now and ideas to try to deal with the avian flu. But until we get on top of that, we're not going to really get on top of the egg price issues on that because that's going to drive up the cost again of a lot of baked goods, a lot of things. We happen to like our bacon and eggs.
There is some talk about permitting reform. I'm going to shift to energy for just a moment. The Williams Company CEO, Alan Armstrong, this week talking about Democrat governors in New England are saying, hey, maybe we need to rethink this thing about natural gas coming in there because they can't compete for data centers and things of this nature. Do you see permitting reform for transmission, for pipelines, all of this stuff that's important to Oklahoma? Do you see that on the horizon?
I do, and there's a couple of areas on that. One is, when we go back to that tax bill we were talking about before, that tax bill, I want to be able to fix something the Democrats put in 2021 when their reconciliation bill, they directly attacked oil and gas companies and raised their taxes significantly, what's called IDCs. They increased that. And that raises the price of energy and everything. I want to be able to flip that around and say, why are we punishing these companies for producing what every one of us needs? That's one. The permitting reform is a water permitting piece. That's what affects pipelines, actually, these what are called 404 permits. And New York is blocking that from a pipeline coming across their state. So New England is trapped because of New York's intransigence, quite frankly.
Burning diesel fuel in their homes.
Yeah, or the crazier part of it, they're buying a lot of their natural gas right now from Trinidad and Tobago. That's where a lot of the natural gas is actually coming from New England. Before that, they were buying their natural gas from Russia. When Pennsylvania is awash with natural gas and all that area of the Marcellus, they just can't actually move it to those areas. So we're actually buying it from foreign entities rather than getting it from the United States. That's driving up the cost from New England and, quite frankly, killing jobs in many other areas of the country.
You've spoken recently about the coarseness of the dialogue in terms of politics. And I think the quote that you've got a book coming out that we're looking forward to reading. And the basic thrust is you can't really roll back the darkness. You can't do anything about the darkness, but you can do something about bringing light into the darkness. You know where we're at as a nation right now, deeply divided, 50-50, and it's coarse dialogue, as they say. Your thoughts, you roll your book out, what are you wanting to get done? And what are you wanting people to take away from your book? Yeah,
this book's called Turnaround, and it's actually been in my heart and been in the process of writing for 3 years. So 3 years I've been just kind of chipping away a little bit of time, weekends and other moments, and it's one of those things that just wouldn't leave me on it. People look at Washington, D.C. and they say it's a divisive, angry place. And I smile at them and say, hey, Washington, D.C. is actually a mirror to the country. We're a representative republic. What's happening is D.C. is because people allow that to be able to happen, and they want that to be able to happen, and they encourage that to be able to happen. So the issue is not just DC, the issue is all of us. And my simple way to say that is, what was it like at Thanksgiving last year with your extended family when all the cousins got together? How crazy did that get and how loud it gets? And most people laugh and say, oh, we left early. Well, that's happening. This coarse conversation, what's happening on social media, the bitterness, the division, that's a decision we have to make. Turning around the country is not just a vote. It's a decision each of us make and our families make on what we're going to be, who we're going to be, and if it's dark in one place, you take light to the darkness. You can't turn darkness up and down. Darkness is darkness. You can turn light up, and it turns darkness down when you do that. So my challenge to people is, who are we going to be? What are we going to be like? And I walk through some personal stories from my family. I walk through some of the political stories. I talk about some of the dialogue. I talk about the immigration debate that happened a year ago that was up in the news so much. But I walk through some of these things, and it's really a challenge to all of us, especially people of faith. I'm a person of faith, to be able to say, we're going to live those values or we're not going to live those values. And we shouldn't live those values some of the time. And then when we talk about politics and divisive things, suddenly turn those values off. The values that we all hold true to, that our grandparents taught us, we're there and we're good for a reason. And so how do we step back into that? How do we shift the pendulum to be able to start moving back the other direction? That's my challenge to national turnaround.
All right, the book, Turnaround, America's Revival. And when is it going to be on sale?
It is April the 8th, actually. People can pre-order it now, but it's actually coming out April the 8th. And I've had a couple people ask me, did you narrate the audiobook? And the answer is yes, I did. My wife said, you better narrate the audiobook or everybody will be mad. So yes, I did.
Yeah, so you can get that in baritone.
Yes. Well, if you listen to it times 2, it'll be soprano. But if you listen to it normal speed, it'll be baritone.
Yeah, baritone is always the best. That's James Earl Jones and James Lankford sound a lot alike. It's good to see you, Senator.
It's good to see you, Scott.
Best of luck with the book, and thanks for everything you do in D.C.
Thanks.